Live. We're good. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. Excited about today's episode. I think I had the same setup last time. I don't know. It looks cleaner. I'm sure I did have it last time. Anyway, talking about your North Star. This is, again, it's within the realm of OP in the sense that it is something that Dave and Shan talk about pretty frequently, even though it is not strictly, function related, strictly these are the parts of objective personality, whatever, right? But I wanted to talk about it because I do think that it has certainly helped me, helped a lot of people I know in the OP community, and I wanted to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. So what is like your North Star? There are a million different ways to talk about it, to categorize it, think about it. I think the easiest way to think about it is whatever your end game is. End game in the sense of when all is said and done, what will I ideally have liked to accomplish? And again, we can break down the definition of each of those words, but for the purposes of the argument, you can define that however you want. You can say, sorry, my camera's, there we go. This is a little more centered. Now I'm like talking to you and not looking off to the side. Okay. I think that there are so many different ways to define that, and you have to define that for yourself. For some, it's like, my end game is I want to be a mom. Like, I know people who their whole life and identity and whatever is built around, they just know that they're meant to be a mom, or they know that they're meant to be a member of the clergy or an activist or whatever. In more concrete OP terms, you can think of the end game, North Star, whatever, as your grow and give human needs getting met. Because I think that for the day-to-day stuff, it's really important to focus on, certainty, uncertainty, tribe connection, and significance, right? Or just connection and significance if you want to use Tony Robbins's, words definitions. That's really, really important for getting you through the day-to-day. Because what will end up happening, I think that why OP is such a powerful roadmap in so many ways, is that it sort of gives you this console in your car to be like, okay, I recognize that this human need isn't getting met. So I need to get this human need met, whether it is the human need for certainty or uncertainty or whatever, connection, significance, one of those four. The reason why OP is so important and the reason why so many people get fucked up is because they will recognize a muscle imbalance, right? It has been my observation and experience that the number of people who just fly off a cliff blindly is not that large. It's not zero. There are definitely people who just fucking all the way off the cliff. They have no idea that their demons even exist. They have no idea what needs are getting met, not getting met. That's absolutely some percentage of people, the population, humans, right? I think that the number of people to whom that applies in this day and age, smaller, just by virtue of the internet. You don't really have the luxury anymore to just completely go off the cliff. If you are, SITI, INFJ jumper, for instance, right? So you're ST, you're lead OI, you're lead SI, let's even say that you're audio. So you got the masculine SI and the masculine TI. If you lived in 1959, right? If you put it this way, if you were a straight white male living in 1959, let's say you just graduated from college, you're about to enter the workforce, and that's your type, you're fucking made in the shade. Like, you're good. You are fine. You do not, it would kind of be a miracle, to be perfectly honest, if you recognized your NE and your FE at any point in that whole process, right? You would realize it, right? And again, this is where the midlife crisis comes. But like, you wouldn't realize it until you were 55. Not a chance. Not a fucking chance in the world that you would realize that until you were 55. Because your archetype and your trope, whatever, you just wouldn't have gotten challenged. You would have been able to plod along with your SITI, double masculine, just like, I show up every day, I do my job, I go home, I show up every day, I do my job, I go home, right? Now, if you're lucky, you'll be able to like ride that out. Maybe you grow in the ranks, maybe you don't, maybe you do, maybe you don't give a shit, whatever. But like, you'll just be doing the thing and you may not even recognize it, right? 100%. That does not seem to be the case as much anymore for the humans. At least not humans in this day and age, Western civilization, whatever parameters you want to put on it, because the world just forces you to get on top of your shit faster. It just does. The pace of the 24-hour news cycle. Even one thing that Dave has mentioned before is that, he sort of had his Apostle Paul moment when it sounds like it was when he was in his mid-30s. Based on the timeline of what I know about him and when I knew him and when I saw his content and whatnot, it was sort of, in his mid-30s that he was like, okay, you know what? I'm fucking done. We are nuking this Winchester Mystery House brain once and for all. Get the fuck out. We're done. And I think for Shan, it happened around the same time, similar age, again, sort of like this mid 30s-ish for them. But he's talking about people who are in their early to mid 20s who are starting to have these realizations of like, I don't think I can just do my saviors all the time. Like, I think I have to like do some demon shit sometimes too. Huh. Right? And that just getting forced out of us earlier, which is great and hard, I think, in both respects. It's great that it's all getting out in the open sooner, and that over time we will start to build this culture understanding, whether it's just within the OP community or the world at large, country at large, community at large, whatever, that like, listen, everything up to 25, you're going to be in a savior state. And then once 25 hits, you gotta crank the wheel and just start trying to fucking do your demons. You have to try to start doing your demons. We're good now. Okay, right. So that's like the good part. The tough part is if we don't also reinforce that with, hey, here's how the chip away game works. Hey, here are these other like emotional identity concepts that, like human condition shit that scholars and, religious minds have been poring over for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? If we don't also add that, then you're going to be fucked, but in a completely different way, right? So I think that's, again, it's good and it's bad, but that's sort of what we're moving towards. So what does any of this have to do with North Star, Endgame, whatever? So one of my biggest sources of stress this past year, maybe not so much this year, but like 2017 to 2019 was just no bueno. Like that was that was my dark night of the soul. My ages 30 through 33-ish. That was my dark night of the soul. It was great. I'm glad I'm over it. I'll probably have another one of those in about 30 years. So we'll see what that looks like and feels like when that happens. But I think that's something that we all just got to go through at least once. And what made that period of time so stressful for me was, it's not that I didn't have an end game, because I always did have an end game, but it just got very, very muddled. And I didn't know how to admit to myself that my end game was my end game. I couldn't do it. It was just, I was very, very much in the bargaining stage of the grief, right? It was like I started out in the denial, and then again moving denial into anger, into bargaining, into depression, into acceptance, which is sort of where I'm at now with it. As of pretty recently, I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, no, that is it. That is indeed, my highest good. That's the echelon that we're aiming for. Cool. But what made that so hard to admit, let alone actually try to work towards, that's a whole other fucking thing. What made that so hard to admit was that my cohort, my bubble, my social experience was very, very, very short-sighted. But not short-sighted in the way that lots of other cohorts are, where you can correct for it, right? So it's very easy to be like, this is not actually how short-sightedness works, play along, but short-sighted in that SF animalistic way of no NT, pure amygdala, just fucking living in the moment. I don't care. Sort of like the Jake Paul archetype. I know that's a very specific flavor of Savior SF, but it's that kind of feel, right? We all know at least one ESFJ who is doubling up on her FE and her SI and just cannot detach herself from a situation. We all know someone like this, right? And all you want to say to this person is can we think this through a little bit? Can we think past what is immediately in front of us and I don't know, plan into the future a little bit? No, here and now. Fuck me. All right, fine. Well, what are you going to do? Right? Again, it can come in all sorts of flavors, but I'm shorthanding it as SF because that's the most, I think it's the archetype that we recognize this sort of short-sightedness with. But that's really easy to compensate for, right? It's really, really easy to compensate for that kind of short-sightedness, that sort of, SF or even ST, because there's so much literature, philosophy, religious texts, spiritual guide. All of spiritual guidance is, here is some NT or NF perspective on whatever SF or ST problem you're having right now. That's 90% of it, historically speaking. But my cohort was weird in that it was very strong NT. It was doubling up on NT, but with either a second animal of ST or NF. And so what it ended up being was we sort of saw past the wall, right? We saw what was on the other side of the wall in the abstract sense, but we kept getting tripped up by what we couldn't see that was right in front of us, but we kept looking past the fence that was tripping us up. And eventually we're just like, well, I guess I'm just going to stay here because we're never going to get to where we're trying to go. So, just, I guess, live one day at a time in a fucking demon state, and existence is pain, and eventually we die. And I was like, oh no, absolutely, stop, y'all doing it wrong. So it was a weird kind of short-sightedness that was hard to compensate for, because the traditional approaches of like, just detach yourself from the situation and you can get some perspective, was what this cohort was already doing too much of. And so, and then the idea of like, we got to ground yourself in order to see forward. Again, very paradoxical, very hard to unpack and disentangle. But the result was that it ended up manifesting as very short-sighted behavior, very limit-based behavior. Maybe that's a better word for it rather than short-sighted. But there was a very clear limit for any given person of what they could accomplish, what could make them happy, what could fulfill them. There was a very clear upper limit on what some people were able to give, and it was very strange to be a part of that, because I had grown up with this idea of like, achieve your goals, you can do whatever you want, right? Because I was born in the 80s, and that's just what we were fucking told. And I think that in a lot of ways that's not. I think that the only reason why that's damaging advice is because it isn't supplanted with all of the other stuff that you need when you're giving somebody that message, which is, okay, yes, you can achieve anything you want given biological restrictions, right? Like I'm never going to play center for the NBA. That is objectively out of the question, because I'm nowhere near being tall enough to be able to do that. That's just not. I could play point guard in the NBA. I'm a little on the short side for a point guard, but like I could totally be a point guard if, rewind my life to back when I was 5 or 15, where instead of, taking music classes and going hard in that direction, I decided to go in the other direction of, playing basketball. Right. But let's say, right, like that was my north, like that's what I wanted. Be a point guard in the NBA. That's not, I don't think you're dreaming big enough. I don't think that's a big enough dream, in my opinion. Because that to me is a great step along the way to something larger. That's what that feels like to me. And so when you were thinking about this North Star, right, it is really, really important that the ceiling be limitless. And the reason I like North Star as this metaphor is when you're looking at a North Star and you're using the North Star to like traverse the water. If you're, let's say you're Moana, for instance, I'm always going to bring up Moana whenever I can. I just want to put that out there. Maybe I've mentioned this before, maybe I haven't. If there's ever an instance in which Moana is even remotely appropriate to bring up, I'm going to bring it up. So just like know that. Just know that. So you're right. So you're Moana and you're using the North Star and you're doing I was going to do this thing, but the palm of my hand with the ring light, it looked weird. But here's the thing. You don't use the goal is not to land on the North Star. You know what? Let's do a little Google search. North Star distance from Earth is 323 light years away. 323 light years. That is so fucking far away. That is so far away. But that's a great guide point. That's a great waypoint, because that'll point you in a direction that you can, fucking Moana, right? If you go, there's just no telling how far you'll go if you use the North Star as your waypoint, right? If you're aiming for a buoy and you're like, I'm going to get to that buoy, or no, man, I'm going to get to that island. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get to the buoy, or you're going to get to the island, and you will be the dog who chased his tail, and you're like, well, shit, now what? Hang on, I got here. Is that all there is? Is that it? And then you get fucked up, right? And what happens to a lot of Hollywood people, and actually even a lot of like finance people too, this seems, is where they'll get like some promotion. They'll get like junior manager or executive, whatever jerk off thing they do in the corporate world. I don't fucking know. But like they'll get that. They'll realize it doesn't fulfill them. Again, and that like that's more of a very clear-cut, ST versus NF thing. But you could absolutely flip it. I know people who have gotten the NF thing, and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm doing all the NF things that I always wanted, and this is incredible. But like the ST is just a fucking chaos mess. And they're like, really? Is that all there is? Like, I'm loving this NF thing that I got, and I'm so grateful for it. But like, can we please get our shit together? Right? And in both of those instances, they were aiming for an island or a buoy, not a North Star. Which is why, when Shannon talks about, her North Star, and when you really get Dave and Shannon to open up about like their goals and their hopes and their dreams for objective personality, it is something that they are extraordinarily unlikely to see to fruition. It's possible, but like just given how long humans live, their goals are like hundreds of years in the future, maybe 100 years in the future, right? So like where they really ideally magical Christmas landy want it to be. Which makes it a great goal. Because when you're aiming in a direction, now you can be all about process, right? Now you're chipping away, you're doing the things, right? One stroke at a time in the paddle boat, right? Or get the wind, whatever Moana does, right? I think, she absolutely has a paddle for sure. So like, that's great. And now when you see an island or a buoy or a whatever, now you're like, all right, I know what direction I'm headed in. Again, a lot of the nomenclature is very NF. I want to emphasize that this is not just a demon NF problem. We just have a lot of that in our culture and society. And I also happen to accidentally be demon NF, so that's where a lot of this language is coming. But it's very, 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 very much transcends all of OP and is really about the grow and give, the shit that has everything to do with the human condition as a social animal, humans as a social animal, and nothing to do with functions or anything. Okay, just want to get that out there. When you see a buoy, you see an island, great. You can be here, you can rest. You're like, you know what? I kind of like it here. I'm chilling. I worked hard. I've been swimming. Let me take a breather. Let me enjoy my success for a little bit. And then I'm gonna keep moving in the direction of the North Star. And then, if you land on an island, you're like, this is amazing. Now that I'm on this island, I can make a new boat because I got the resources and I got some fire and there's like a little bit of a community here already. And This is great. This is amazing. Or maybe they're like, you know what? This is it. Like I found it. This is what the North Star was leading me to, right? It's the y'all. If you have never heard the song "Bless the Broken Road," Nitty Gritty Dirt Band originally did it, but Rascal Flatts did the version that is like the most well known. There's a lyric in there, and it's very schmoopy, and I like it very much. And it's right. It's the chorus. It's you know, every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who part, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. It's so good. You guys, feelings are awesome and stupid, and I love them. Right? That's the thing, right? It's the others who broke my heart, like that. That's just the Northern Star, man, right? And eventually you'll stumble upon something that you're like, okay, this is it, right? Like I found this community, this is where I want to invest in, and I'm going to plant myself here and put down roots, and it's going to be great. And that doesn't mean, and look, here's the thing, if that North Star is still calling you, then you got to honor that, right? And you're like, I love being here right now. Cool. Invest in the moment, and then enjoy it, appreciate it, reorganize. Because here's the thing, once you've landed on that plateau, once you're on that island, you can be like, that was a great North Star to get me here. Now that I'm here and I can kind of walk around the island a little bit, there's another star that I wasn't even looking at. That's the star. That's the fucking star. Holy shit. And then you can, right? And then you can go to that one, right? Bring people along with you. Maybe you got a bigger boat. Maybe you got a family. Maybe you don't. Whatever, right? Aaron Alexander, love this guy. If you haven't watched the class on Aaron Alexander, it's really, really good. It's particularly important for someone like me. So he is a blast audio ISFP, which like is you want to talk about someone for me to learn from, right? So he is lead FI, my single activated demon. He is a decider. I'm an observer. He's doubling up on his masculine SE in a savior state, my last animal. And he's not NF last, which I am. So it's just like a perfect combination. But one of the things that he talks about is false plateau after false plateau after false plateau. And where people get screwed up is when they do the thing where they're aiming for a buoy, thinking that the buoy is the North Star. Right? That's the problem. Because then they'll get to the buoy and then they'll fucking cling to that buoy because they've invested so much emotional energy into that being the goal that they were aiming for, that now they don't know how to let go of it. Right? Because they haven't built the muscle of using something unreachable as a waypoint, right? As just a thing to sort of guide your direction, right? Because here's the thing, for better or for worse, we are predominantly terrestrial earthbound beings. Even when we go to, Mars, we don't have a direct line to the cosmos, right? That's our human brain does not work that way. It is not. We have to outsource the connection, right? We have to get some other being, if you want to call it that, to sort of bridge the gap, right? To actually sort of translate cosmos to us and us to the cosmos, right? There's a buffer there. So because we cannot, we experience time in a linear fashion, we just got to keep moving forward. And the way to keep moving forward is to, sort of alternate between what is the task at hand, what am I aiming towards? And I think if you can alternate between those two, I think you're in a really good shape. There's the Kierkegaard, bringing up Kierkegaard, because I learned about him God, this is 12 years ago now, but it really stuck with me because it was a great class that I was in. And so he has a concept called the night of faith and the night of resignation. And the idea is that both of these nights that he, the way that he calls them, realize that there is more to life than just what is on the ground, right? He was an existentialist. And the night of resignation completely detaches himself from the world. He's like, nope, I don't want to live in the real world. I have resigned. I've resigned myself from the real world. I just want to live in abstract heady land, right? I reject the sensory physical world. But the night of faith, which is what we should all try to be, what the night of faith is able to do is the night of faith is able to go, you know what? Totally get it. I totally get that I need to, that there is a world beyond the terrestrial world, however that manifests. But I can't live there because there's a lot to be gained from having your feet on the ground and from being practical and, living that kind of life, living a full human life. And so the night of faith, what connects the night of faith to the cosmos is his faith, his belief. Again, Kierkegaard was like super, super hardcore Lutheran. So again, his faith manifested in a sort of traditionally religious sense, but it doesn't have to, right? You can have, whether it's faith in a higher power, whether it's faith in practical magic, whether it is faith in the machinations of the universe on a practical sense, the abstract makings, whatever it is, right? Whatever N is there, that's what you're going to be trying to balance, right? That's what you're aiming for. And where I think the faith aspect of this North Star comes in is trusting that by using the North Star as a waypoint and keeping your eyes in front of you and occasionally looking up and then looking back down, right? And yeah, you're going to be scanning, right? Just to make sure there's no like sharks or walls or whatever. But the reason why that works is that you're not looking around being like, is this the right North Star? Maybe there's a better North Star. Well, there's a buoy over there. If I aim for that buoy, then maybe I need to change the North Star to reflect the buoy, because then I can say, well, oh yeah, I was always headed in that direction. Look, because the buoy was there. But then you're going to come back to, right? So that's sort of what all of this is sort of, leading towards. And I think that you really can see it. You want to talk about people who are walking the walk in addition to talking the talk. Dave and Shan, they're doing it every day. Like mucho respect for those guys, because the way that they live their life is very North Star oriented, right? They're like, I remember I had a conversation with them and they were talking about like, the pandemic has been great. It's really given them an opportunity to ground themselves, to be present. The business is kind of cooking along. They're able to sort of sustain that and getting that down. That's creating more room for opportunities, more room for growth, more room to spend time with Cody. Like, it's been great. It's been great for them from, by all accounts, from what I've heard and seen on the class videos and the YouTubes. And I think that the reason why that works so well and why they've had so much success with this is that they know their North Star and they're like, great, I know what it feels like to be aiming towards this North Star. And I'm going to be toiling away. I'm just going to be real practical, boots on the ground or in the water, paddles in the water, boots on the ground, whatever. Let's stick with paddle in the water because I like the Moana metaphor. Let's just fucking stretch this motherfucker out as hard as we can, right? Paddle in the water, you're just paddling away, right? And then when things get hard, when you get that little twinge of like, I don't know about this. That is a fantastic time to look up and just make sure you're going in the right direction. right? And if you're like, oh, hang on a second, these waters are getting choppy, and I'm a little off track. Okay, step one, reorient yourself, right? In the Moana montage, she is not pointing to the bottom of Tafiti's hook the whole time, right? She's going, she's paddling, she goes to sleep, and she drifts, and she's paddling and turning, shit's whack, and then the sun goes down and the stars come up, and she's like, fuck, I gotta turn the boat this way because the hook is over there, and I've been paddling in this direction. God damn it. That's fine. That is how this shit works. That is how it is supposed to go. That is every journey. That is all journeys. If it does not do that, then it's not a journey. It's just a burst, right? And when you're aiming for North Stars, and you're not just trying to go from buoy to buoy to buoy to buoy, island to island to island to island, then it's like, you're gonna have this swooshiness. But ultimately, you're gonna get to where you want to go. And you're gonna get to a place that is like, we talk about like, serving your highest good is the way that I've most often heard it described. That's going to get you there. North Stars are going to get you there. There's going to be stuff on the way. That's not to say that you shouldn't stop off at a buoy that is on the way to your North Star. That buoy is there. Use it. Use the goddamn buoy. Take a breather. If you find a nice little island to hang out in for a while, hang out there. You don't fucking know. And with your eye on this North Star, you can go, you know what? Yeah, this North Star really was leading me here. I'm going to sit down my roots. I'm going to really plant myself, establish myself, do a thing here. Or if you're like, I like it here. I'm enjoying chilling. I'm enjoying hanging out. I don't know that I'm doing this forever, but I like it for right now. That's great. I love it. And then once you have explored that enough, be like, all right, let's take another look at this North Star. Is this the North Star that I still want to be aiming towards? Is there another North Star? Oh, look, there's another North Star. So I bring all of this up because I had a similar sort of revelation last night. I'm an actor, moved to LA to do the acting thing, and I sort of moved out here with the original intention of like, I'm going to do TV comedy. And that's still true. I would love to do TV comedy. I think I'd be very good at it. I think I would enjoy it a lot. But I had a real come to Jesus moment last night where I was like, that's not my end game. It's not my end game. My end game is very much like prestige television, like dramas, winning an Oscar, like that kind of realm of work. Again, not the prestige of getting a tchotchke or a star on the Walk of Fame. Like, I don't care about that as much, but in terms of what is the work that I want to do, how can I serve my highest good? I think that comedy is a step on the way to that, but I don't think it's the end game. And that was a really important realization for me because it freed me up to be able to go, okay, great. If that's the North Star, this island that I'm on right now, this comedy island, is amazing. I fucking love it. I can meet a lot of people, make connections, just get better at swimming, establish myself in Los Angeles. Like, there is so much good that I am getting from being on this island. It's terrific. But I have to acknowledge and honor the fact that this island is not my end game. And there are other things that I want to do in the spirit of serving my highest good, right? Doing the grow and give thing. Comedy is a part of that, but it's not the whole thing. Now that I'm like, okay, great, got it. And now that I know what North Star I'm aiming towards, it is so much easier to do work. So much easier to do work. whether it's working on my physical appearance, just like consume sleep processing stuff, whether it's getting shit done, making phone calls, doing this, doing that, whatever, like it's fine. We're good because the North Star is clearer. Which brings me back to sort of where I was 3 years ago. That was always the North Star. That was never not the North Star. What happened is that there was a lot of cloud coverage. And I just couldn't see the North Star. And I was sort of going by feel and by instinct. And, I thought the musical theater was it because that was the North Star for so many people. And I was like, well, if I'm here and I'm like in this community and doing the thing, but that's not my North Star, I got to get out. But I can't get out because, I don't know, I'd worked so hard for it and this and that. It was all nonsense, right? And then once I was like, all right, I know this isn't my North Star. I know this is not my end game. But now, wait, hang on a second. Now there's clouds and it's rainy and what is happening? Okay. And then like the clouds parted a little bit and I sort of saw like TV and film is in this direction. I was like, oh, fuck. All right. Guess we got to go in that direction now. And then I moved to LA and then a lot of work, a lot of whatever. The clouds started to part a little more. And now I'm like, yes, I was, okay. Yeah, I was vibing the vibe towards the comedy. And now it is like end game is drama. I get it. That's what I need to try to do. And it also is going to let me enjoy the journey a lot more because I know what I'm aiming towards. And I think that my big takeaway from all of this is if you have your North Star, it's so easy to live in the moment. Right? And I know that that's a very, NS dichotomy, but here's the thing. We all have one savior and one demon when it comes to the observers. So that's just true, true for anybody, right? Same with tribe and self, right? If you have your North Star where like all your parts come together and you're like the balanced human, you're like, that's what I'm aiming for. I get it. Now, when things are tough, it's so much easier to go back to this thing that's important to me, right? Ed Milet, he talks about Bella's wedding. That for him is enough to be able to like, I got to get up in the morning to do this. I don't want to. Do you want to go to Bella's wedding? Yes, I do. Guess I'm going. Guess I'm getting up. And it's a nice override when it gets tough if you're using your North Star to override it, right? And now you can start to make really healthy choices. And here's the thing. If over time, you're like, I don't know. This is getting real hard. I don't know if this is worth it. Look at your North Star. Are you still aiming at the North Star? Do you even give a shit about that particular North Star anymore? These are really important, good questions to ask. And only you can answer them. But the reason I like the North Star analogy so much is that I think that, within the context of objective personality, we're all looking for balance, clarity, grow and give, connection, significance, certainty, uncertainty, right? We're looking for all of these things. These are the human needs. And I think that when you have your North Star, when you invest the time and energy to find your North Star, to put effort into working towards that North Star and to getting closer to it, and really, again, half of it is finding it, and then half of it is putting in the energy to go in the direction of it. That's your play and your sleep. Again, for me, that's NF and ST. Could be anything, right? It could be blast and consume. Again, it's about the balance, the well-roundedness. This is not a function-specific thing at all. So, having this North Star, I think that it's worth taking the time to find it. And then once you have an idea of it, put some effort into getting there. And if you're like, oh, this is not good, then reevaluate and say, okay, did I pick do I need to pick a different North Star? Or do I just need to power through this? And again, only you can answer that. And it really does. It takes time. It takes time to figure this shit out, but it's worth it when you do. And I highly, highly recommend that you do, because that's going to get you on your journey, and that's going to let you power through the tough spots when it gets tough. And it's going to let you feel like, you know what? I am chipping away at something meaningful. This is sustainable. This is sustaining me. And yeah, if I just keep riding this wave and just keep paddling, I'm going to get closer to where I know I need to be and where I want to go. I don't know what that's going to look like necessarily, but I have an idea, and that idea is enough. But I'm just going to keep moving forward, and whatever happens, happens. I just think that's a really sustainable, healthy way to live, and I highly encourage it. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Be sure to like and subscribe. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.